Hey everybody, this is Desu from Desu Plays. Today I am playing Minecraft Infinity Mod and kind of tutorialing on some of the great stuff that I think is great anyway in terms of Botania. I'm going to ramble a little bit about how I've got this mana farm going, how much mana it produces, some of the different components of the mana farm and systems that allow me to make it all work. Um, I this thing was crazy design at first, and I actually cannot keep up with the resource production of the farm at this time. I need a bigger space. That again is why I'm building this crazy big tower and trying to find ways to actually like make use of everything. So I'm gonna be transporting everything out of here into that tower to be used, and I'm gonna probably have to scale up my mana production and my flour usage to consume the output from this farm. This isn't even a very big farm. Like honestly, you can go way bigger in forestry. So if that's of interest to you, welcome. So number one, we use a lot of different mods for this. I had to figure a lot of stuff out I had never used before, so I just picked the best stuff I could find. Um, but it works really well. And so number one, all of my mana generation from over there is fired by a series of mana spreaders here. Mana spreaders sometimes get stuck. I have found the best way to replace them is to move some of your mana spreaders around, re-aim them, and break the one that is stuck, and then put it back, and then re-aim everything again. And it's kind of a pain, but I don't know why that is. So I haven't been able to fix it yet. Sometimes it seems like it's proximity to other mana spreaders, or like the item that they're doing gets broken. But in any case, let me talk to you about some of the cool stuff I've been able to find. So, number one, mana comes in, hits this mana pool. This mana pool is linked up to this other mana spreader. This spark is also linked up to my mana network. You'll notice that I'm kind of on the low side right now, and that's probably because I took off my dominant spark from this pool, so it's no longer automatically full. Okay. But in any case, this powers pretty well, and if I ever do need to increase it, it's very easy for me to do that. I haven't gotten the balance right. I don't want a lot of mana loss, so that's one thing I worry about. It fires through these mana spreaders into this mana flux field. Okay, the mana flux field really great. Um, it allows you to, like the Botania mod as a whole, the amount of energy you can get from like a small Gormarialis farm, like that one right there, where there's just four of them eating apples occasionally, is about the same as what you would get out of a biodiesel generator that was also consuming apples. Okay, so it's actually slightly better then. So your efficiency overall is at least like mid-level energy production with this, and you can really scale it up easily because Botania scales up so well. So you can put a ton of mana through this thing and convert it directly into RF at a pretty good rate. Um, these are from Ender IO. They're capacitors. The basic capacitor is super cheap, which makes it really easy to get started. I couldn't find other ways to get mana out of this thing that were easy, so I just built a capacitor, stuck it right next to it. It goes right in, problem solved. Um, Additionally, I built the vibrant capacitor because I needed enough. I was producing too much, and indeed, this thing is usually just full, and I usually just have full mana storage or full RF storage. I'm gonna have to expand this too if I want to not waste what I'm putting into it. These are energy conduits. You really don't need big ones for the farm. It doesn't use that much. So the nice part is I just built the really cheap ones. They weren't expensive. I got a bunch of them really fast, and there I am. These are Ender IOs, so both of these are Ender IOs. Item conduits, this is to get the items back out and sort them into my chests the way I want, because you can't do that with Corporea. But they're all hooked up to the Corporea network, so I can get stuff out of them and back to what I need to use to mechanize this whole thing. And finally, with a forestry forestry farm, you're gonna want an aqueous accumulator from thermal expansion. Just stick it in a group like this. I took some thermodynamics fluid ducts and hooked them up. They seemed to work where like the Buildcraft tubes didn't. Getting forestry to work was kind of a pain. It was really they're like the tubes. I tried to sell a bunch of different ones. So these are the ones that worked for me. Ender IO item conduits, Ender IO energy conduits, and thermodynamics temperate fluid ducts just to get the water in. Now, the actual forestry mod farm itself is really awesome. It's completely automated on its own. All it needs is power and water, and it'll do and dirt and appetite stuff, and it'll do its thing. The way this works, and this was really hard to figure out at first because it wasn't well explained in other tutorials that I watched. Um, you build based on the forestry template. It's going to be 4 deep, and the smallest one is 4 deep, and it's a 3 by 3. These other 4 blocks, the farm control block, the gearbox, the farm hatch, and the farm valve, are what you use to get everything automated, okay? And they can be placed on any level of the structure. So you've got 4 vertical. It can be placed at any level except for the 3rd, which would be from the bottom. So if I were to dig through this block right here, that block's layer cannot have any of these items. So that means you can have your inputs and outputs on the sides or coming from the bottom or from the top. I chose the top because I thought it would look kind of cool, and I feel like I succeeded, which is great. This whole thing looks like this. All right, so this is the amount of water that's going in. This is the this actually allows you to turn these different plots into different items. So I could have like an actual farm here. I could have trees on their other 3, and I may actually eventually do that because Gormorialises produce a ton of mana. But for now, just Arboretum for all of them. These are your replantables, and I think these are pollen that are getting used on the plantables. I'm just going to steal that. And I'm going to be happy about it. In any case, you can see this is where the outputs go. So anything that is destroyed and dropped on the terrain is actually fed into the machine. And you can just see it's actually breaking stuff. Things are dropping out of it. The leaves are breaking. The whole thing goes down through it, and it just gets sucked up. The dirt is used to place these hummus blocks, and then the apatite. This is made from apatite and sand. It's a fertilizer. It's reasonably cheap and it's plentiful, so that makes it easy. You just plug some of this in here, and you plug some of this in here, and it makes your hummus. Your hummus lasts for like a couple of days, and then it eventually turns into sand. So this also doubles as a sand factory, though it's pretty slow. And this whole thing just produces a ton of trees, and the trees will bring butterflies in if you keep it in an enclosed space, which I love. And when I planted oaks here, they eventually turned into apple oaks all by themselves, and now I get a ton more apples, and that's really great. So that's how this whole thing works. It's actually super simple. You just basically plug your inputs in and set them all up. I'm going to show you kind of how I've got that set up. So on the brown channel, which is the output channel for my Ender IO stuff, this chest is designed to send stuff out. I've got apatite ore here. I've got sand somewhere being output. I've got fertilizer made, and this just automatically filters into it as needed, okay, down this tubing. The greens are the inputs, and you can see sand, apples, oak wood, they abound. I have so much. It filled up so fast I let this running for like a day, and it's actually almost overfull already. How I utilize this stuff is really where it gets fun. So you've got all this stuff. It's being generated by this farm. It's way too much. You can hardly keep up. And so I turned it into a mana production facility similar to that tree farm over there. So let me show you real quick. I was given these overgrowth seeds by the admin. I requested them because none of these passive flowers stick around. After 3 days, they are broken, and I really like them and can't use them, and it's kind of a pain to go manually replace them. So this is optional. You could do this a number of different ways, the spreaders and whatever. I just thought it was concise and pretty, and that was what I was going for. So the mana pool here feeds this Egger Carnation, and these are just decorative glimmering flowers, okay, for lighting. The Egger Carnations just cause my tree growth rate to increase. Once I did this, before this whole thing was really set up for before the Egger Carnations. Once I added the Egger Carnations, I literally can't keep up. So like I said, this whole thing has to get moved. You can see I'm trying to actually burn saplings on this side. Over here I've got saplings and charcoal being burned. And that whole thing is just a mess. So all of the outputs get sent to 2 different places. The apples get sent to here just to help supply this whole thing with power. But you can just kind of ignore that one because that's a whole other matter. They get sent to here through the Corporea network because it runs all the way over here. These are all fed, and currently they're turned off, which actually I better turn that back on. Do I have dust somewhere? Because I'm running hot on this. So you're going to get to actually see this live. So here we go. So I've got all this stuff. Now every like 7 seconds, this whole network pulls I've got one for cobblestone just because, a item dropper into the furnace for oak wood, which is burned by these 5 exo flames, which do a tremendous job getting these things going. They'll cook it in a hurry for a reasonably decent amount of mana. That's part of the reason why these are here, is to keep this mana pool supplied. They are then jumped into these chests. The charcoal is, which you'll note has a ton still. I've got just so much charcoal, I can barely keep up. And that's actually why I had to turn my farm off for a little while, was that I was overproducing. But the whole thing's really simple. It's very similar to the other things I've acquired. I've got one out hovering hourglass with a specific time with sand. I've got furnace. It drops into a hopper. It's cooked by the exoflames. The hopper drops into the chest. The chest is sorted by the tubes. Now, I don't know if you can use these tubes to extract from the chests or from the furnaces. So if that's true, then the hoppers are superfluous, and I feel kind of stupid. I should probably test that, but I didn't want to fuss around with it since I had actually already just built it really fast. So before I had figured out the tubing, I had started using this to cook what was coming out of this farm. So I just kind of hooked it up on top. But yeah, the Corporea network works really great. One of the things that's great is all these chests are hooked up to Corporea. Corporea then takes all the charcoal and allows it to be filtered all the way back to my industry section over here, my generators. So I did pods of 6 endoflames fed by 1 Corporea funnel. Yes, Bellathorn, do your work. You annoying little bastards. And they are item framed to different things, and they just pop them out every occasionally. The charcoal needs to be burned less frequently than the saplings do, and you really need to burn both, or you will never keep up with it all. And saplings will overtake everything. When I had a better balance, the saplings were the only thing that I was doing, so I pulled saplings into it, and then I had to add more pods. But you can see this is very simple. I just have Elven Mana Spreader. The funnel will pop at the top if there's nothing underneath it with a valid inventory. So that's why I do it this way, and because they're surrounded by 6, they'll just pick it up and burn. And there's a little bit of cooldown on the endoflames, and I think I didn't do any math or anything. I just guessed that 6 is probably a good number, and I liked the way it looked, so away I go. Now, this produces a ton of mana. This alone is a huge mana production facility, and all of it is pouring into these two with recessive sparks on it. These 2 mana pools with recessive sparks, so it can reach this mana network. Okay? Another reason why I need to rebuild this, because it's currently not really distributed very well. This battery doesn't work the best. The apples are also consumed here. I'm probably going to need more, but I found that 2 Gormorialises eating apples was sufficient in a given pod to fully fill this mana spreader pretty much every time an apple is eaten. So it was worthwhile, and since there's a cooldown on each Gormorialis, to just do that. So they fire like a full mana pulse, like really quickly over and over again, which feeds a ton of mana. This is actually going to be here to eat more apples. And if I ever build a farm and auto-craft some stuff out of the farm, or get an auto-crafting farm that builds stuff appropriately, I'm going to have a ton of mana to work with, more than I currently do, and I want to do that. This is an expanded section. It's the same thing as over there. So that's how I'm producing all this mana. This whole thing will fill up in about 2.5 to 3 hours. Like the whole thing. That's like a ton of mana. I've got it all tied to a spark that is dominant, so it can be pulled out from this one place. I've got this little Manatide Bellow to help me fill up my Terra Shatterers when I need them. If you haven't ever seen the Terra Shatterer in action, it's much like a Tinker's Construct Hammer early on, but once you get enough into it, it starts to be like significantly more powerful than that. You can clear out much huger areas much more quickly. Same thing, it's kind of like 1 block deep kind of deal, but you can do, currently my other Terra Shatterer is at like 5 blocks by 5 blocks or something like that. It's huge. It's really great for mining out large areas. You can also attach a Elementium pickaxe to the Terra Shatterer, and it will not mine cobblestone, dirt, or sand, or other mundane items. It'll only mine good stuff. So it's kind of good for clearing out a room quickly if you don't want that other supplies, though I need most cobblestone and stone these days, so I don't use it too much. That's how this whole thing works. I mean, it's a short little video, because I think all the concepts, if you understand them, are very simple to implement. None of this is too crazy. But the forestry mod really adds a level to this that makes it so easy to get a ton of mana out of it, that if you're going to build a mana farm, go with a forestry mod farm. Like, they are super not that hard to build. They work really well. They're super automated, and they're just really powerful. You don't even need the Agri Carnations. They're just there because the added mana really helps get them going. So this whole thing is self-sustaining as well because the mana is generated from the tree farm is the same thing that powers the tree farm, and there's such a surplus available. So hope you liked that. Everyone have a great day. Be well. Be happy. And that's it for me for now. Bye bye.